Hello and welcome to OzLoL Podcast, episode 117. On this special Valentine's Day episode, my name's Colossus, and I'm joined by Stephen Garstone
Happy Valentine's.
and Smite.
You can call me Cupid.
No,
Don't call me Cupid.
Yeah, isn't there a song? There's some sort of song where he says you can call me something. I don't know. I'm old and I can't remember.
You can
I just
can
met
call
you
me
and
maybe.
you can call me
Yes,
baby,
that's
yeah.
it. No, it's something else. Anyway.
Yeah, it's
Um,
definitely something else.
Yeah. Anyway, so this week we're going to be talking about OPL Week 5. We're going to talk about Dominion, the unfortunate demise of maybe unfortunate demise of Dominion, and we're going to try and fit in our discussion about managing your time properly, which is something we should have been practicing the last 2 weeks when we ran out of time to talk about it. So, yeah. We're setting a good standard for ourselves.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. All right. So we're of course part of the Trinity Force Network. So TrinityForceNetwork.com is our website. There you can find Trinity Force Podcast, T-Force LCS Rundown, the Four Wards Podcast, the T-Force RPG, and the Heart of the Cards Podcast. And there's probably something else in the works because there always seems to be. We seem to be finding more and more people joining the network doing stuff. So you should check that out.
That's how networks work.
Yep, that's it. You can also check us out discord.trinityforcenetwork.com. So it's a voice and text program system. Essentially, it's replacing the TeamSpeak server. That's the word I'm looking for. The TeamSpeak server that we've been using. And it's what's great about it is you can jump on it through your browser. So I'm actually going to make a tab for it in my standard browser tab.
Just while we're on the topic of Discord, though, I've got to say how much I love it. I've been using it for a bunch of the groups that I've been joining, and even been a part of throughout this year, including like the university League of Legends stuff. Where we all collaborate between each other. So that's a thing. And spoiler alert: there's going to be some big university things going on in the Oceanic region in a few weeks' time. So
Sweet.
look out for that. But no, we're starting to use Discord for that, and honestly, like it's like you've got all the voice channels of TeamSpeak, which are great, and then you've also got a bunch of different little chat channels you can use. Because let's be honest, TeamSpeak's voice, text chat channels just don't work. No one reads them. But
Yep.
Discord's ones actually work. You can get notifications for it because people tag you when they do chat. And the other massive advantage I love about it is that like anyone can get it. It's not like, oh, I don't have TeamSpeak installed. It's like open up your Google Chrome, paste in this link,
Yep.
and then you can take it further from that. You can you've got the desktop app, which I've got. You can put it on your phone as well, which is incredibly useful for when you're in bed and don't want to get up when you hear the Discord notification. But I totally sound like someone trying to sell you this thing, but it also doesn't cost anything.
And it comes with a set of steak knives. No,
No, you're not getting your hands on my steak knives.
it,
yeah.
it is really good. Yeah. And it's also what's good is it's really good that it's permanent, as in there's people always in there, and there's message history and stuff, which will be handy in the time before the official Riot, clubs system is being brought into the client. So it's a good way of getting in touch with people and connecting with a community of people, and because it's international, there's always NA people in there all the time. So I think I'm looking at right now, there's about, I don't know, about 70 or 80 people maybe. No, probably about 50, 60.
Oh, just only 50 or 60.
Yeah,
That's
only
quite a
50.
lot.
Yeah. So yeah, check it out. Discord, DISCORD .trinityforcenetwork.com. Yeah, and probably one last thing you check out is the Patreon, patreon.com/TForcePodcast. There's a variety of pledges you can make, but if you make the $10 pledge, there is the Champion Select podcast, which is they get on it's a Diamond 1 or Master or higher player to come and talk about a champion. And they talk about everything you need to know about that champion. I think they're having the creator of Syndra from Riot, Riot something or other, Slytherin or something. I don't know. It's not like that.
Sort of cat thinks he's
We've got
Yeah.
Salazar Slytherin coming onto the podcast this week.
Well, if you had a choice of right name, wouldn't you choose that? Really? Why
Well,
wouldn't you?
Apparently no one would because no one has that name.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's like some guy started with it. Anyway, it's whoever created Syndra. He's coming in to talk about Syndra. Apparently, he's the highest ranked Syndra player, like the #1 Syndra player in the world.
He's probably coded like something into Sinja that only he knows.
Yeah, that's it.
Just like, you know,
like hold down the K
sneaky.
and
Just
J keys, and you just increase your
Yeah.
ability power by 70 or something.
I'm sure that's exactly what happened. Yeah, but it doesn't show up to anyone else.
Yeah,
Only
that's
you
it.
can see it.
So, yep, $10 a month, and there's 2 Champions League podcasts a month, and that's been going for nearly 6 months, 6 months at least. So there's a good dozen or so other podcasts you can listen to check out to catch up on. So, yep, check it out. Patreon.com/tforcepodcast. That's the place to go. All right, let's do some quick news. So first, I'm going to give a shout out to Mushu and Fat Cat, who are running the League Down Under podcast. So as far as I'm aware, they're the only other Oceanic podcast out there. I think all the other ones have sort of faded into nothing. So go to League.
It's difficult to compete with us.
I know. We are charming and handsome, and we run a smooth operation when none of us have webcams and microphones.
I don't think handsome is really our selling point this week.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd lose our microphones. I don't think we'd come on the show without those. At least we don't do that.
What's it? Podcast for the lack of hearing.
Yeah, we would do interpretive. Well, we would do interpretive dance, except we don't have webcams. So
you've just got one guy using text throughout the whole podcast, and someone's reading it out for him.
We're doing Morse code.
At least we're not there yet.
Yeah. Imagine if somebody actually did do a Morse code podcast. Like how long that would go for? It'd be like a half-hour show that's done. Like it just takes about 6 hours to Morse code its way out. Anyway, League Do, LeagueDu.wordpress.com if you want to check them out. They're also on YouTube. The channel is Mooshu, MOOSHU. So check that out. I haven't yet listened to it, but I know Fat Cat is A, hilarious, and B, smart. He's the Chiefs League of Legends division manager. So, that's not nothing. So check them out. Let's talk about OPL. So, OPL this week.
Oh, sorry, before we go on to OPL, can I talk about the NTE Esports stuff just a little bit? I forgot to put it in the document. Sorry, I mentioned it.
But you reminded me, so it's all
week.
good. I forgive you, Stephen.
Yeah, so I probably just want to clarify it to everyone, because I didn't know last time you brought this up. NTE Esports, guessing that's Northern Territory Esports.
Yes.
So if you're in New Zealand,
you're not familiar with the Australian states,
or from Fiji, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're in Suva right now, it's in Northern Territory.
I've been away and very busy and not as active on social media and all that sort of stuff because I've been really throwing everything into the NT Esports League of Legends side of things. And we've spoken about this previously on the podcast, but just to fill everyone in who may not remember all that sort of stuff, I ran a 7-week league of eight teams in a group stage to determine the top 4. And then the top 4 were put into the semi-finals, then inevitably the grand final. The grand final happened, it was about 9 days ago. I was going to talk about it last week, but I wasn't here. And it was fantastic. We actually had a director come on who was able to live stream the event and worked with overlays, and we had like the action replays and all that sort of stuff. And it was a live event with myself and my co-caster Strider on commentary, and you can hear the crowd quite audibly in the background just getting absolutely pumped. The series was fantastic. It went best of 5. It was a best of 5 series, and it went to 5 games, and they were all just huge like massive skirmishes and everything, and it was a lot of fun. And I want to announce that the winners were Team Destiny, who had a very, very strong season and took it all the way to the finals.
Nice.
I just wanted to get that in there. And shout out to my mate Scrub Phoenix, who's really been doing all the event stuff.
And still has one of the best names in the Oceanic server by far. Well, which doesn't actually. Well, the story behind it makes it even better. But we'll say that story for another time.
Yeah, I think we said that like a year and a half ago. When we
on the note of that event, though, about how it was live, went to 5 games, action-packed. You can hear the crowd. I'm just remembering the first time I ran my university tournament, and I wanted to cast all the games, and so I decided to have a live finals in one of our lecture theaters, so like nice big room. I was a bit worried that we wouldn't get it full, we wouldn't get too many people, and because it was such a big room, it would look really empty. We had like 100 people show up, and so the city I live in is Dunedin, and our university is quite known for its student culture, and so
Student
there were
culture.
quite
It's like
yeah,
food runs
student
is what
culture,
we're talking
basically, drinking.
Yeah.
And
I was about to
so,
say.
so not to advocate drinking problems, kids, but a whole lot of people turned up quite intoxicated. At one point, like, there was a big fan following for one of the players called Fibsy, and these guys had like literally painted the guy's name across like 5 of them on their chest. So like one of them had F, one of them had I, and so on. So they all stood up at one point, took their shirts off, and started screaming out "Fibsy, Fibsy!" You could hear that like clearly through the stream, and it was just one of the best experiences I've ever had. So. Not to steal your glory or anything, but if any of you guys listening are ever in the future, ever have the chance to go watch a game live like that, go do it. And, maybe don't get wasted, but, have a few drinks and paint your favorite players' names on your naked body. And then do that. It's so much fun.
Ours was a much more family-friendly event. Like, it wasn't the university college, demographic that was the majority of the audience. We
So
had
you didn't get
all sorts
any
of
your
ages.
stripper mates in, Steve, to come in and provide halftime entertainment or anything?
No, but interesting you should mention that. We've got a series
All right,
of.
where is this going?
Yeah.
It's not it's not
When it involves
league
Steve
related so
and
much,
people
but
in Darwin, you never know what's going to happen.
no, the biggest nightclub up here in the Northern Territory is a place called Discovery. It's a massive building, and NT Esports are starting doing like get to know esports things called Famil Nights that they're running, and we're going to have like cosplay girls and all that sort of stuff kind of there and inviting people to play or find out what it all is and everything like that. So you're not too far off the mark with that comment.
Oh
my god.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
My
Northern
life's
Territory,
pretty great.
Darwin. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. All right, do you know if there's any plans to have any more seasons, or like?
Oh yeah, season
Yep.
registration for season 2 has been up for since that day. I basically opened registration the night the grand finals took place. We haven't set a date for when we're starting because we need to see how many teams register, because we had I think 9 teams register and then 1 drop out, so I had to plan a 7-week season so that everybody could have an even group stage. But if we get it looks like we're going to be getting a lot more teams this time, so I might be doing like 2 different groups that go into like a bracket, and then they go through similar to the way Worlds structure it. It really depends on the turnout. So we haven't got a date for season 2, but registrations are available. Just jump onto the NT Esports Facebook group and it's
Cool.
there.
All right. And I think NT Esports are also on Twitter. I think if you.
I wouldn't go there. That's,
okay, right. Fair
Smoke
enough.
Phoenix is not known for his Twitter skills.
Then don't go on Twitter and find NT Esports. Well, I guess you can hit one of us up if you want to know more about it, and you can't.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at
Yeah.
Stephen Garstone. Easy to find me.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of kind of smaller tournaments, we've got the Oceanic Open League has been announced. So there's tournaments basically through February. So there's 20th and 21st of February. The Week 2 tournament, March 5 and 6. Week 3 tournament is March 19 and 20. Then early April, mid-April, and then the promotion relegation matches are late April and early May. So
I think it's every 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah. So, if you want to try and make it into the OPL, now's your chance. I think it's... the sign-up is... Let's see if there's actually a proper link.
There is. It's posted on the boards, though.
Yeah. So if you go to the
so-
boards, it's up on the League of Legends website. Is a link to that
Yeah,
board
the,
post.
the big article for it's on oce.lolesports.com. So the Oceanic Esports, division area. Missing the word, but
Yep.
the page,
Yeah,
the page that you go to, see all the news. There's an article for it there. Old mate Rusty, the caster from the OPL and LPL, he's the one that is managing most of it.
Yep.
And yeah, like Carrot said, it's your path into the OPL. So, obviously, it functions really similar to how it always has, although it's a little more streamlined. You're not having random, not random, but other divisions that aren't right kind of handling it
Yep.
under their name. So now it's like kind of officially Riot's doing it. They still have community members running the actual tournaments,
Yep.
which is also something you can get involved in, which I'll talk about in a second. Um, but yeah, no, it's really cool. You make it to the top of the ladder, and essentially you get to challenge the bottom guys from the Oceanic Challenger series, who get to do the same thing to the bottom players from the OPL, the Oceanic Pro League, to make it up there. So that's your pathway in. And another really cool thing that I like is that they've got production applications as well. So if you love the game but you can't really tumble very well on Vayne, or you don't know how to take down turrets, then you can go for one of the production roles. Which is there's a caster application form, but I imagine that encompasses production roles. They're looking for essentially stream tech. So if you know how to use XSplit, know your way around OBS, and you can run some overlays pretty well and nicely, work with some casters in your ears, then you can also apply there. And then obviously, if you're a shoutcaster, then this is without a doubt the best way to get yourself known. If you've got a little bit of experience, I imagine they're not just going to take new people straight on. But if you've done a tournament here and there, you've done a bit of practice, and honestly you want to get yourself out there, this would be the place to start.
Yeah. So I might even. I'll see how my streaming capacity is in when I go to Perth, but I might even do it just for a lark. Because that's the other thing.
Honestly, because I've done that role in lower tier stuff, not open ladder, but my university tournaments and whatnot. And it's honestly it's not too hard. I think anyone can do it, but you can really kind of show yourself off with it, with in terms of overlays and making sure everything runs nice and smoothly. Good crisp camera work will be really key in that. Because if you've ever watched a game that's only had directed camera going, or OCS, then you'll definitely notice it compared to OPL. Having someone with the camera on the right things that the casters are talking about, it's honestly so much better. And so, like I said, it's not too hard to do, but there's a lot you can master about it and really show off your skills with. And in terms of taking it further than the open ladder, this sort of thing is always going to be here. As long as League of Legends is alive, there will be organizations that need people that can control the camera, can stream tech, and then you can take it even further from that. So, I mean, not to shove the casters aside, but production is very, very important too. So, need more little fledgling production guys coming out.
Absolutely. All right. Well, yeah. What was I going to say? Let's look at the document. Okay, let's talk about LPL. So this week it was a full week as opposed to the sort of half week last week. So the games that were played were Legacy versus Infernum. We had Hellions versus Trident. I'm just trying to remember all the acronyms. AV versus Chiefs, and Direwolves versus Sin. Spoilers, of course. Legacy 1-2-1 absolutely stomped the crap out of Infernum.
2-0.
2-0, sorry. What did I say?
Yep. You said 2-1.
Oh, sorry, 2-0. I meant to say 2-0.
Naughty.
I'm okay.
I was like, that's not what I've got. Am I looking at the wrong scoreboard?
Hellions versus Trident, 2-1. AV versus Chiefs, 2-1. Direwolves versus... And that's... Sorry, Chiefs. Sorry, Hellions... Hellions beat Trident 2-1. Chiefs beat AV 2-1. Direwolves beat Sin 2-0. Leaving the final standings, Legacy on 4 wins, 0 losses. Direwolves on 3-0. Chiefs on 2-1. Sin on 1-2. AV on 1-3. Hellions on 2-2. Infernum 1-3, and Trident 0-3.
So some of that sounds a bit off because the totals don't add, but there was a half week last week, so some teams have played more than others. So that's not bad editing by me. Don't throw that onto me.
Nope. What did we think of the games this week? Let's I mean, I saw the Legacy and Infernum game, and Legacy just drilled them. It was brutal.
It's what you kind of expected, to be honest. I guess my rundown of the week would basically be Monday, which was Legacy and Infernum, boring. Tuesday, which was the two games that actually went to 2-1, the best. I love that night. So the Hellions and Trident and AV versus Chiefs. Those were a great series. And then Wednesday night was Direwolves versus Sin. While not as boring as Legacy versus Infernum, it showed promise. And I wouldn't look at it as a 2-0 because in the second game, Sin really gave Direwolves a run for their money. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about those a bit more individually as we go through.
Well, I mean, you said like Legacy versus Infernum. Oh, it's to be expected that Legacy would do so well, but Infernum last week beat AV, and they looked pretty good doing it. Like it was relatively close, but it wasn't a Stephen Bradbury kind of situation where everybody else falls over and then he wins the gold medal. So I think it is still a little bit surprising that Infernum did so poorly against Legacy.
Yeah, I suppose so, but I mean, right now I'm putting Direwolves and Legacy just leagues above the other teams right now. Even Chiefs. Even Chiefs are sitting back down there.
Yep.
Right now, and so that's why I'm not terribly surprised. Infernum, great team. I mean, what they pulled out against AV, excellent. And AV, also a team that pulled out a win against Chiefs in the series this week. So it's not like they're just some pushover team that Infernum beat.
Yep.
They're definitely up there, but Legacy and Direwolves right now are just so far ahead of everyone else, and it's kind of hard to tell because of the way the group structures are right now. We're not going to see Legacy and Direwolves play against each other for a while until they have the cross group games.
Yep.
Until the grand final. Yeah.
No, it won't be the grand final because they do all play at least one series against the other team once. And I'm just scrolling down the schedule, seeing if it happens anytime soon. It probably will eventually. Wait, actually, I think it's actually happening next week. No, there it is. Yeah, Direwolves versus Legacy.
Yep.
There we go. Yeah, and that's also going to be the OPL Legend match, by the way. But, we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Long story short, Direwolves and Legacy miles ahead, and that's why there was no surprise to me that Legacy beat Infernum so easily.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. I mean, having said that, though, AV this week took a game off Chiefs, so I don't know if that says something about AV or if that says something about Chiefs. Probably says more about Chiefs.
Probably, but I'd still put
it's-
it a bit of both.
Yeah,
I think
no,
AV
I
did
agree.
pretty well.
Like,
Sorry, Steven, you go.
No, I was just agreeing with you. Is that Avant have been steadily improving their game over over their entire history, really. And Chiefs have been on top for so long, but they've had some very drastic changes, and now we're starting to see what those changes mean for the team. And it's just a lot of factors there going into that.
Yeah, well, a lot of it comes from, or the Chiefs' changes came from, like we said, week one, the Swiffer not being on the team anymore. They have a different shot caller, so that sort of thing's going to show up a lot more in the best of three series, rather than what the league was last year, which is just a bunch of best of ones.
Yep.
So it's definitely showing because Chiefs, they didn't lose the series or anything. They still won. They still got the point. But it shows that they're still slipping up, and maybe that's where the chink in their armor that the lower tier teams can break through. And I feel like because everyone's playing a best of three series, they're all getting that sort of experience. I mean, the amount of coaching and team management that has come out over the last year, even just the last year in the OPL, the Oceanic scene, has been tremendous. Like it's had so much more of an impact. Even the OCS teams have to register with a manager and a coach. So it's really being emphasized, that part of the game. So obviously shot calling is going to be a big part too. So maybe I'm looking way too much into it, but I feel like that's part of a big reason why Chiefs are slipping, not necessarily losing.
I mean, I think part of it is just they had such an aura around them. Like in previous years, to beat Chiefs was a huge deal because they were just so dominant.
Yeah. What was the phrase we used? Proof that gods can bleed. It was that big an accomplishment to actually knock Chiefs down. At the
thanks
time,
for not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I guess
David
it's one of those
and
things.
story.
Like every time they lose, it seems like a bigger deal than say if Direwolves or Legacy lost. Where I guess it's just a case of, they're moving. They might be moving back into the pack. I guess we don't really know for sure. Things are in the air with Cheese. His Cheese's. There's been changes at Chiefs, so it's not quite the same lineup. And yeah, just also that the best of three, which can work against them. If they have a bad they're just humans, if they get psyched out in the first game, if it doesn't go so well, or in the second game, then they're on the back foot. It's going to make it harder for them to play. And so yeah, there's just additional pressure that the new format brings that really no one's used to. But for Chiefs, I guess it's the expectations that are going to be undermining that. Maybe their confidence or maybe their yeah.
Well, a lot of it comes from their prior reputation, but also how the oceanic public view the OPL as the top 4 teams is a phrase that we use a lot when talking about the OPL. And when we were talking about the top 4 last season, it was Chiefs are definitely on top, and then who are the rest in the top 4? That was really the discussion. But that's not a discussion we can have this time, because the lines are much more blurry. Like, it's not a this team is going to be in this position the entire season. This team is going to be in this position the entire season. Legacy have been very impressive so far. So if I was going to say top slot at the moment, I'd probably be leaning towards Legacy. But it's not something you can be concrete about in your analysis, really.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess like as we said previously, it looked like in the preseason, they just picked themselves up the players they needed to just make themselves a super team. They really did get the best out of the best preseason of anybody. So yeah,
I guess we'll find out next week who got the best preseason changes.
Yeah.
When we do see Direwolves and Legacy go, because the big one is obviously King, who got stolen, ninjaed away from Direwolves, but now they've got Raze, who I think is an excellent AD carry right now. I'm not sure how well he fits into the Direwolves style, but they've been making it work well enough, and we'll see. It's kind of going to be Raze versus King down there in next week, almost.
Yeah. Well, you did mention something early. I can't remember, was it you or Carrot? But the Direwolf versus Sin game, where Sin actually gave Direwolves a run for their money in that second game. Like, is anyone considering, like, to use the same phrase I used before, a Sin in the top 4? I don't think anyone's making that assertion. But the fact that Sin are able to give Direwolves such a strong run for their money, that again, that's another one of the reasons why I'm leaning more towards the Legacy on that side of things. So,
and actually, I think it might have even been week 1 we talked about how I think Sin they played Legacy, and I think they might have actually done quite well in against Legacy. If I recall correctly, I could be completely wrong. Some of you should just go back and listen to see if I'm making stuff up. But yeah, I think that from what I recall in week 1, there was points in the game, particularly I think game 2, because Legacy won 2-0, but I think in game 2 there was like a period of time where Sin kind of looked like they were going to win the game, and Legacy in the end won the game. So yeah, I mean they've certainly got a lineup that's, they're no 4-0. So, yeah. What about? Sorry, go.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I'm not too sure about the Sin against Direwolves thing. It's a lot of resilience, but honestly, in the end, I think it was Direwolves maybe not closing the game as early as they could have.
Well, that's actually something I've noticed from a lot of the teams so far. Is that, like, I can't pinpoint exact examples, but just a general feeling I've gotten through the entire season is that victories are coming more from picking up on enemy team mistakes rather than, like, the real initiative taking superior movement and rotation sort of strategies and stuff. So that's just something I want to kind of throw in there to consider when we're talking about this.
It's kind of a trend kind of globally, though, because people are complaining about it as well, because it makes the games a little bit less interesting to watch, because teams aren't taking risks. They'll instead go for the safer options, like, using 4 people to bash down the turret at the start of the game for some free gold, because they know that if they do slip up and do try and do something risky, and it doesn't work, then snowball changes have made it very, very punishing. So people are just taking the slow route, and that moves into late game where it's like, yeah, we've got a 5,000 gold lead, but that doesn't mean anything if we lose this next team fight and suddenly they're tearing down our Nexus, or they're getting a free Baron, or they're getting a free Dragon even. Like, that's why it's acting like that, but Yeah, you're right. I mean, Oceanic teams are finding it hard to finish games a little more than other
Yeah.
regions.
That moment, there was a moment in the Hellion versus Trident. I think it was game. It was either game 1 or 2. Definitely wasn't game 3. But Trident did they kind of sloppily executed a teleport gank to the bot lane. Dragon was down, so the objective of this gank. Graves was jungling. I really can't remember which game it was. But they teleport in. Graves comes in, and they kind of like the gank didn't look like it was going to work, but Hellions were playing so cautiously, or they were just not communicating effectively. They just went, okay, let Janna die, everyone else just get back to safety. And I'm like, no, turn on them and kill them all. This is your, like, Kassadin is right there. You guys can turn this around into an ace. But they decided to take the more cautious route. And then they repositioned to defend the turret very slowly, and Trident weren't able to really press what was a bad gank originally that turned out to be a successful one because they were able to kill Denian on Janna. They didn't convert that into an objective because they didn't want to make that mistake. So it really is showcasing itself in these games.
Yeah, it's a bit frustrating to watch sometimes, but yeah,
it's like watching a movie, just yelling at the character, "Don't go up the stairs," you know.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't really talked a lot about the Trident and Hellion series.
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit less important than the Chiefs' loss or their slip up in the other series, but it's good to see Trident actually, pick up their only game win. Obviously not a series win, but they've won a game. And a lot of that came from just a better draft. It was so good because I think we said this every week. But Trident are really slipping behind in their drafts, but this time, it was so good in their winning game. They actually got it right. They got BMA on someone good. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Kassadin. Pac-Man got his Malphite, which is a bit of an OPL special, and it all just sort of worked from there. They had to work for the win, though, of course, but it shows what they can do when they actually draft properly. The third game, where they obviously didn't win, wasn't quite the same story. They tried to go for a similar lineup, but Hellions weren't having any of that. They picked up on some of those picks and stole them away or banned what they needed to. So you still have to play into your opponent when you're going up against, when you're drafting, but it's good, Good work, Trident. And I think you guys can. I think you guys. It's not like I'm talking to them. I think Trident can definitely pull something out, and I don't think we're going to have a clear-cut last place team if Trident work that issue, because obviously right now they're sitting right at the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
I think
Still early days though.
Yeah, still early days. I mean, we say that, but we're in week 5.
Yeah.
True.
It's things are starting to tick along. I mean, it's not actually too long until finals are here, and which is kind of scary.
What's kind of like that Hellion Trident game, seeing Ryu on Gangplank do AoE crits for 1,500 damage. Like,
yeah,
holy crap.
So it looks like the last day of regular play is March 23. So it's
that's much closer than I thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's just over a month to go, and then the finals are late March, early April. So that's
I wonder what they're doing for Split 1 finals, because obviously they're doing the grand finals for the season it's Melbourne this year, isn't it?
I think so, if I remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Melbourne,
Yeah.
because they did Sydney last time. So that'll be really cool, by the way. I'll see you guys there. But I wonder what they're going to do for Split 1, if they're going to have, a big live finals, or at least put the players in the studio.
Yeah, that's what I think they'll do.
Yeah, I mean, even the from the semifinals onwards, if they're going to not actually have like a full-on live game with a crowd, get the top 4 teams in the studio. Like I was kind of hoping at the start of the season that we'd get to have player cams like they do in the other regions, but obviously because we're not, a big boy league just yet, all the players are still playing from home.
Having said that, the studio at actually Riot is actually remarkably small. Like you'd be surprised.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so it's,
but
since I went and had a tour there when I was on holidays in Sydney.
Oh.
Yeah.
That well's never going to go dry, is it?
So yeah, I think the main issue would be you'd have a lot more interest for people being there than heck, even from because Adam and Claude from the Trinity Force podcast, they went to the LCS a couple of weekends ago, and they said that it's surprisingly small even for the NA LCS in their studio. So yeah, right in Sydney, it's you don't
Magic of
you
cameras.
don't need
Yeah.
a lot of space to pull off like a high quality gig like that.
that's
That's
you could stand behind the cameras and poke the casters at the analyst desk like with a broomstick. Like that's how close they are. Like it's.
You so wanted to do that, didn't you?
Unfortunately, alas, no one was there when I went there. Everybody was on holiday. But
You guys think that studio is small? Oh my god, the thing that we were working with in Auckland,
yeah,
for the NZGC last year. I mean, the place where the players were playing and they had the analyst desk, that was fine. I mean, they had plenty of space in there. We were like as the casters, we were kind of shoved in this little broom closet,
yeah,
and I mean, we kind of had enough room. We had enough room for 3 computers and like a third guy sitting off to the side doing the camera work, in game. But there was literally not even room for a guy on the camera, like
Wow.
the physical camera. They had to use a robotic camera that they could control remotely.
Jeez.
And so, yeah. And then of course we like had to turn around and not face the screen when we were actually on camera, so during loading screens and whatnot. Not to like dog the production quality of the event because it all worked out very, very well. But I mean, yeah, just to add on, to the like other studios, they can be very, very small. I understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, this week the games are AV versus Hellions, Chiefs versus Infernum, Direwolves versus Legacy, which is the big show match, and in fact the Legends match, and Sin versus Trident. And yeah, Monday 1 game, 2 games on Tuesday, 1 game on Wednesday. All right, let's talk about Dominion. So we got about 20 minutes to go, so hopefully we can fit in both subjects. Let's talk about the demise of Dominion. Alas, it was never really played in Australia in OCE, but we'll talk about it anyway. So if you didn't catch the news, as of the 22nd of February, Dominion will be gone forever, even from custom matches. The reason giving was that they have real problems with botting, as in people leveling accounts with bots, and that even in the matchmaking
really?
queues in
I didn't read
NA,
I missed
they
this.
yeah, well,
That's a small part of it.
yeah, I mean, so it's essentially there's I think they said it's like 60% of players in the Dominion queues were actually bots or something crazy like that, so they're having really issues with that, and they just didn't have the manpower to actually keep it ticking along because there just wasn't a player base for it. So, yeah.
I want to make a comment on that botting to 30 thing because, like, are new players using that service or are people from different regions using that service?
Probably people that already have a level 30. I mean,
exactly.
Why would
like,
you?
So how does my best mate's girlfriend who wants to start playing League to find out what it is get in contact with a guy who owns a bot site and go, you know what, just get me to 30, get me all the runes and stuff, whatever, just so I can play with my boyfriend. Oh, you know what, I'm not interested in this anymore. I can imagine that the majority of this is going to be people who've swapped regions or have other accounts and they don't want to go through the level up process. Why? That's just a guess, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'm actually
Like,
I'm really shocked that Riot haven't actually done a do you already have an account? Then, enter in the code on your registered email address to get a level 30
This is
account,
going to a very, very different topic.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of opinions on that, and I will debate you for an entire session, an entire podcast on it. But this is for
Another
the
time.
demise of Dominion, and we've got to talk about this. So we can't just
That's true.
move the conversation away. But no,
Maybe-
seriously, I'd love to talk about that topic next week on the podcast.
Yeah,
maybe
we'll do it next week. We'll
There
put it in
we
the
go.
document.
Lock it in.
Victor's
Lock-
listening, so make sure, mate, when you do the document for next week, talking about our level 30 accounts and buying level 30 accounts.
So,
all right,
so
let's
yeah.
Dominion.
So shout out to Victor as well, as you just said. He had some very strong opinions when the news came out. We had a bit of a Skype chat about it, just over text. So got a bit heated. But
I still love you,
so
Victor. I really do. I'm not mad. I'm sorry if I
we
upset
do
you.
we do all love each other. Now, a few things came up in that. Victor was very, very defensive of Dominion, thought that Riot were making the wrong decision to remove Dominion. And you guys heard me before. It sounded like I had tears in my eyes when I was talking about the demise of Dominion. And I am upset that it's going. Well, I'd say I'm more upset that it wasn't popular enough to keep going.
Yeah.
Is Riot making the right choice in removing Dominion from match-made games? Yes, absolutely. There's no point keeping it going. There's a bunch of reasons for this. There's the balance issues, obviously, because the game is very different to Summoner's Rift.
Yeah.
And when I'm playing Cassidon in Summoner's Rift, I get very used to him, and then I think, I might go check out this Dominion mode. I'll play my favorite character, Cassidon, and then suddenly, maybe his ult has twice the cooldown or half the range, or doesn't do any damage, and I'm thinking, what the heck is this?
This was my biggest problem with when they made that change. We talked about that on the podcast then too.
Yeah, Cassidon's one of the specific ones that does actually have changes between those two modes.
There's a bunch
Singed
now.
as well.
Yeah, Singed, I think Teemo as well, maybe Shaco, but we won't get into those. But to the point, if you ever want Dominion to be truly balanced and not feel like it's just a completely one-sided match or it's decided in champion select, then you need to have changes like that. And that's not very healthy for the game. You want to be able to take out your Teemos, your Singes, your Cassidons, and just put them in another game mode and be like, I know exactly what this is. I don't need to read up any changes. I don't need to have like an essay of all the differences between the champions on each map. And that's what they would need to do. And that's just not worth the effort to either Riot or the players playing the game. But this only really makes sense in match-made queues. Why are they removing it from custom matches?
Well, I mean, I think it's one of those issues where, you still have the botting issue. So you still, if they want to try and crack down on that sort of thing, which they want to, and again, that's a separate discussion. But it is, if you have bots in the system, it does degrade people's experience of the game. If you go into a game, even a custom-made match, because certainly, I don't know. I mean, not so much on OCE, but certainly in North America, I imagine there's quite a healthy custom match kind of community. And if you've got these bots coming into the game and just standing around just because they're farming XP.
Do you even get XP in custom matches?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, if you have human players.
You need to have a minimum amount of human players, and the teams need to be balanced numbers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I still don't think that that's enough of a reason to remove it from the custom matches. I'm not too upset that it's being removed because, let's be honest, I never really played on it anyway. But I don't think that it really needs to be removed from custom because, you can always password a game if you're worried about bots. You can always, kick people out if they're suspiciously acting like bots. There are ways to deal with it that you don't get in the match-made queue that, makes sense for it. But I really think that they should keep it.
I mean, there's also just a server issue, aspect to it. All these things take resources. So, and this is what I was saying in the Skype conversation we're having, which is, Riot have a finite amount of resources, and every time they want to do something, they have to use people and money and server space and all the rest of it to make it happen. And every single person, every single dollar spent on Dominion, even if it's just in custom maps, that's a dollar, that's server space that is not being used for something else. And I'd much rather see them, by and large, put their efforts into making Summoner's Rift the best possible game it can be, than having a game mode that is half-assed, that's just there because it's just there. I mean, I actually think that the concept of bringing, retooling Dominion and bringing it back as a special game mode, I think is really appealing. Like, if you think, even if they said okay, we're gonna bring, because they had the Shurima based Dominion game, which I thought was really fun. It was just pure team fighting all the time, which was quite good. But I think even if you said, okay, we're going to bring back Dominion, and we're going to have it for a month, or we're going to have it for 2 months, and we have matchmake queues, people will really play it. Because, I played it just yesterday, I think, just because people were like, hey, let's play some Dominion. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. And I played it a bit when I was on NA, didn't, since they haven't had matchmaking queues here, I never played it in OCE. I'm like, oh yeah, and it's actually a really fun game. Like, it's actually just a great alternative to Summoner's Rift. Um, so I think bringing it back for even sort of semi-lengthy periods of time, so people can really enjoy it. You could even have like small tournaments, like Riot might organize small tournaments just for Dominion. In
Well,
that
they
period
did.
of
They
time.
did for Ascension, didn't they? At least Oceanic.
Did
Yeah,
they?
the Oceanic Riot did the thing for Ascension where they got a bunch of rioters and you had to beat them in the game and it was all streamed and it looked really cool. So I mean, I remember that was a thing. But yeah, no, I agree.
Yep.
I think if they're going to remove it from custom games, then it's probably because they want to bring it back as a custom as a featured game mode, so that people aren't burning themselves out
Yep.
in custom matches for some reason, and then it comes back. Because the thing with featured game modes, and this could again be another topic completely, but it's that they drop massively in popularity. I did a big gesture with my arm for how much they drop.
Yep.
It's because you look at the statistics, even for Earth, beloved Earth,
Yep.
praise be upon him, that mode was it dropped so much within 2 weeks. I mean, you had so many people playing it in the first week it came out, obviously, because it's tons of fun. I loved
Yeah.
it. It's fast, it's fun, just like Dominion. And then once the second week started, dropped. Like,
Yep.
honestly, it dropped to about less than a tenth of what it was in the first week, and that was only when it was out for like what 2-3 weeks it was.
Yep.
Imagine, I mean, there are people that are always saying like, why don't you just keep Earth in forever? And that's one of the reasons. I mean,
Well,
yeah, like
and-
maybe we should have the option to custom game it. I don't know,
well,
but
on the Earth thing, we discussed that on the podcast previously as well. It's like, and one of the points that I can't remember if I brought it up or Victor or whatever, but a meta forms and people realize these are the most powerful champs in this mode, or these are the summoner spells that you always need to take, and if you don't, you're an idiot. That
Yeah.
sort of thing. So that culture grounds itself very quickly in those sort of game modes.
Yeah.
Now with Dominion, like the champions that have had their kits altered so that they're different on Dominion are that is exactly what they are. They are the week after meta that has, okay, we know these are the most powerful champions, let's play them. And Riot have gone, well, we don't want that to happen, and tried nerfing them in the past, and to whether they had success with that or not. That's I forgot where I was actually going with this, but that's the main point, is that once you're 100% sure that having these guys on your team will give you like a 60% win rate or something like that. It takes a lot of the competitive edge out of it, and if you don't get that champion on your team, then you feel hard done by and all that sort of stuff. So I mainly just wanted to bring that up at that part of the discussion. So you may continue now.
Yeah, I mean, I think one other aspect to Dominion, which is probably it's a good reason why it's going, is it's actually starting to look like arse. Like, it's got the art style of the old Summoners, which is bright and colourful, but compared to what Summoners Rift, Twisted Tree Line, and ARAM, Murder Bridge,
in Dota 2.
yeah, and I guess Dota 2 look like, it just doesn't match up graphically to the standards which Riot set for themselves. And let's be real, like, Riot are one of those companies where they want everything they do to be excellent. It's not like Valve, where they're happy for things to kind of pan out the way they pan out, and just to give people what they want, even if maybe it isn't the most optimum thing in somebody's mind, because that's just the nature of Valve.
Yeah.
Riot want to have a thing where everything they put out needs to be high quality all the time, which, I mean, it's just a choice they've made, and I think it's a good choice.
Yes.
But there are other choices. So people like I think Wombat in the Skype chat was saying, why don't they have a map editor? And why don't they do that sort of thing? And yeah, they could, but they've chosen not to. They've chosen to go a different way, and that's just the way it is. So yeah, I think if they can bring it back and bring a shiny new map, and they could. I mean, the other thing is when they bring it back, they can bring it back with a totally different design. Because I guess what we've seen, even with Summoner's Rift, like the move into the dynamic queue, the new way of doing champ select and picks and stuff, like they're starting to push in these different directions and actually move away from. I mean, I guess it's really an evolution, but they're moving away from how things used to be, Imagine if they sat down and they did one of those Thunderdome type scenarios where people can brainstorm and do whatever they want for a couple of days. And imagine if they sat down with 10 people and said, okay, what could we do with Dominion? What isn't being done but would make Dominion even better? And they could just go wild and just and I just think like the possibility of coming back even for a month and a half with a completely new map, with a redesign of the features and champ select and all this sort of stuff, I just think that would be so much better than just same old game mode trudging along in customs.
Yeah. I just want to bring up the DC property game that was it was it was just Dominion,
Yep.
but with DC characters, like the DC license. So I used to call it Doomsday Dominion because I only ever played Doomsday.
Is that still going? Is Infinite Crisis
no,
still going?
that's the reason I bring it up is because it was shut down due to lack of interest. Like they just weren't getting the people logging on to play it, and I'm like, it's a fun game, just as Dominion is a fun mode, but it's not as gripping as something as Summoner's Rift, and it doesn't have the same sort of spectator enjoyment. Like I guess is probably like there's a lot more moving from point to point than there is constant action, and there's there might be at this particular stage of the game everyone needs to go to the top because that's going to sway the next few seconds or whatever. But it got to a point where they've capped 4 things and they're able to successfully defend something for 30 seconds. This game is won. Now we just need to run out the clock. So and that came up quite a lot.
Well, I guess Heroes of the Storm is another kind of evolution on. I mean, I don't think it's quite the same as Dominion, but I think it has a lot of similar elements. And yeah, it's just a very different sort of game. And I don't know if it's as an esport, it is quite the same. From what I understand, I've never played it. I'm just going by what people have told me. But
I've got to say, I mean, not to plug Heroes of the Storm in a League podcast or anything, but watching Heroes of the Storm in an esports sense is actually quite enjoyable. I mean, it kind of depends on the map that they play, but some of the maps you get team fights that, just because of the nature of how it works, team fights that last several minutes.
Wow.
And I really like that because it's like you've got to go capture this objective and you've got to channel it for 10 seconds without being hit. Yep. And so the fights are still going, people cancelling each other, and then, by that time your teammates have respawned and come back in, so that's why it can last so long. But things like that I actually really enjoy watching, so I feel like games can be not Summoner's Rift and still be enjoyable as a spectator sport, but I don't think Dominion is right for League of Legends. I think that in the end, Riot's decision is right, and if they are ever going to bring it back, it should only be as a featured matchup. It should not be a permanent queue. They shouldn't spend too much effort on redesigning the map. Maybe give it some fancy new little animations if they really want to. Maybe change up some of the characters like they did in Earth, for the short-lived thing of people that, particularly overpowered on it, like Hecarim was in Earth. Maybe change them up a little bit, but keep it mostly the same. Bring it back as a featured mode so people will be like, hey, it's Dominion. Oh, we used to play that when it first came out, or we've never played that before. Let's play it, for the 2 weeks that it's out. And then near the end of that, they'll be like, oh, well, we're bored of Dominion now. Let's go back to Summoner's Rift. And that'll be the time that it sails on out, and it'll come back another year, and people will do the same thing. And that is where the enjoyment can come from it.
And the other great thing, because, I mean, all of Riot's decisions about balancing, it's all driven by data. And one of the issues they have with something like Dominion is you've got lots of bots, so they're not interacting meaningfully in the game. So you've got a small queue of players, and it's hard to make decisions about design when you've only got a small group of people talking about it. I mean, that's the problem with the PvE. Is I guess they try to get rid of the bugs, but when they actually bring things from the PvE to live, they actually can then really work on specifics elements of design, because you've got, instead of just 30,000 people or whatever are playing on the PvE, you've got 80 million people, and that gives them a lot more data to work with. And I think the thing about a featured game mode, because you saw the difference between Earth 1 and Earth 2, in Earth 1, Rise and Kassadin were taken out of the game because they were like, these guys are going to break the game. Quickly you found out that Sona and I think Soraka and
Hecarim,
there was a whole bunch of them that were just like broken champions, like just brutally unpleasant champions to deal with. And so, but because there's so much interest in it, it makes it easier for them to get a lot of data. So once it comes back for the second time, they go, okay, we can bring Rise into the game because now we know how to make it work. We can bring Cassidy back in. We can tone down healing. We can tone down this and that. So it's one of those things that they can actually use that massive amount of data to make better design decisions. So you bring in Dominion as a featured game mode, a shit ton of people play it, and then all of a sudden you've got much better ways of figuring out, okay, this is how we can tweak this champion to make it work for the next time we bring it in. And that makes it more fun. That means every time it comes out, it's going to be more fun to play. Yeah. Any final thoughts on Dominion before we... I don't think we've... How much time?
Well,
it's
I don't know,
I'm shedding less of a tear for Dominion than I did for the original Twisted Tree Line map. Mainly because I really love that original Twisted Tree Line map, and the new one doesn't do it the same way that the old one did for me. But Dominion, it was always like if I wanted to play Dominion, I always got discouraged in League of Legends from playing Dominion when I could play like Doomsday Dominion, like the DC version.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, well, I could play Doomsday in that, I don't know.
I've got very fond memories of both the original Twisted Tree Line and Dominion. I mean, original 3's map, I leveled up on that. I made my account and I had 2 friends I was playing with, so we mostly played on that map, and that's how I learnt the game. I learned a whole lot of champions on that map. And so I was sad when that went. Dominion, again, a lot of memories, mostly from when it originally came out, because oh my god, it was hype. It was so exciting. They were doing a little bit of small scale testing on the PvE, but then one day out of nowhere they just said, oh, hey guys, we're doing open beta testing on the live realms, so go ahead and queue for it if you want to. And oh my god, I queued in and got a game within a second. It was match made so quick, and it was just, I was sitting there at Champion Select like, who do I play? Who do I want to try on this map? So I think I picked like Master Yi or something, because I was really into him at the time. And then we were sitting in the little area, because back then in Summoner's Rift you spawned in and there was no little barrier stopping you from leaving, but in Dominion there was. And so we were in there like, oh my god, we're locked in and the bridge is forming in front of us. Oh my god, 10 seconds and we get to go out and see what this game mode is like. And honestly, it was just so much fun. And then after a week, like, it got boring and I went back to Summoner's Rift. But
well, that's kind of the point, really.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the point of a featured game mode. Obviously, Riot wouldn't make a permanent game mode that you get bored of in a week, and they've learnt that lesson now. And so, in summary, for this whole Dominion thing, I want it to come back as a featured game mode. I want to have that cool feeling again. Obviously, I won't have the exact same thing, but maybe a lot of Oceanic players will. They haven't had much of a chance to play it. And they'll get to have...
Alright, here's my thought. Okay, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on right now. Okay, I'm just warning you.
You're going to put your
Let's say my tinfoil hat. This is my conspiracy. This is a conspiracy theory, right? Okay. Riot are getting rid of Dominion to gear up to make a standalone Dominion-style game as their next game. Because they remember they are Riot Games, and they're actively working on other games. Dominion's some version of Dominion will be a standalone game.
That's a pretty brave call there. Did you inject tinfoil into your skull? Because I'm gonna rip your tinfoil hat off and rip down your theory and say that's not gonna happen.
No, it's not gonna happen. But it'd be cool if it was. I've been snorting aluminium right in front of me. I got a $20 note. I got aluminium dust, and I'm just like off my head. I mean, they could, theoretically, they could do it. Like, there's been a few companies that have tried. So, obviously, DC, Dominion. Then there was, wasn't that Dawn? There was like a MOBA that was like Dawnstar, or I don't know. Like, it was like
I know the one you mean.
Yeah, it was EA. Yeah. They did it, and I think that was a Dominion style kind of MOBA as well. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe Riot as their second game, they do a smaller version where they sort of split it off and.
To be fair, they have had many mini games like the Cho'Gath destroys buildings Java
those
game.
Those are kind of jokes.
Timo Nyancat thing, and those are. Well,
awesome. I mean, I think there's a real I think I'm really curious to see what they do as their second game, and whether it's going to be within within Runeterra or whether it's something completely different. But
I don't know if I want them to do another game. But again, this sounds like a topic that could take up an entire podcast.
Speculation alert. All right. Well, okay. So I guess that kind of wraps up the discussion for this week. Now, before we go, one thing I'm going to mention, I'm moving house this week. I'm moving to Perth. I'm just letting all of you listeners know that there might be some kind of, my changing time. It kind of, like we don't know what I don't know what my internet situation is going to be like in Perth. So whether there's a stream or not, I'm not certain. Just giving you a heads up, hoping that it happens, but fair warning, it may not. But of course, the podcast will still be going. Like we'll always record a podcast version. Whether we do a stream, that's still yet to be determined. But
Come on, Carrot. Let's get a stream.
yeah, well, I want one, but it just depends whether shitty Australian internet. I'm moving away from amazing Australian internet to shitty internet. So, yes, I'm just letting you
It's time to rethink your life choices.
Well, unfortunately, I have to go to uni, and uni can't be done here where I live. So, yes, it's got to move. But otherwise, if we do stream, 8 p.m.
Catch us
Sundays.
there.
Yeah. Twitch.tv/Trinity Force Podcast, where at the moment we're doing Sunday nights. And yeah, the plan is if we stream 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time on a Sunday night. So yeah, come check us out. Alright, that's it for this week. We'll be back again next week with more talk, more OPL, more discussion. We're going to do time management. I promise. I swear. We will.
Oh, we didn't do it.
If we get time.
Oh, we actually didn't do it.
It's the discussion that will never arrive. Maybe we'll talk about it first next week. And then talk about OPL. Alright.
I just think this is like a running joke. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what was like the...
It was like a Baron discussion. We were going to have a Baron discussion like every single week. And it never happened. There was another one, I know for sure.
No, Jimmy Kimmel Live used to do this running joke for ages where they said we're going to have... what's his name? Matt Damon. Sorry, we couldn't get Matt Damon on the show tonight. Like they did it like every night for like 7 months or something like that, until he eventually came on and there was the "I'm fucking Matt Damon" song and all that sort of stuff.
Oh well, next week
It
time
seems like
management
that.
and Matt
Like
Damon.
every episode,
Yeah.
we're gonna have like and we'll get to the time management thing next week because we didn't have time this week.
Yeah. Cool. All right, that's it for this week. We'll be back again next week. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.